Yeah, and it was the game, I think, that made me have the same thought you all had, which was, wow, why did they do this? And wow, this feature sucks, and I could do this better. And then for some reason, at some point in my life, I decided to spend all the money I'd ever made on making one, which I still can't rationalize at home. I'm trying, not winning, but this is, I can't imagine being in a more vibrant, more energetic, more forward-thinking space than this one right now. Again, I said earlier, we up here are involved on a daily basis and more in tune with you, the players, than in any other genre. And we're, you know, I can speak for myself, and I'm sure some of these guys would agree. So much of what we do from a tools perspective is now focused on trying to read your thoughts and understand what it is you want us to give you and give you more of.
Yeah, and actually being at SOE while EverQuest was being built, you know, I got to see that whole process and why those decisions were made in some cases. But it's really about the community that these things create. I mean, they're huge communities, they're very passionate communities. I mean, hell, my brother met his wife through EverQuest. So you can definitely see that they are also life changers with those communities.
I'm going to have a different answer. Not really an MMO, but Diablo was my favorite online RPG. It informed more than just like online games, but it informed a lot of BioWare's RPGs. It was just a great game. I think I wasted a lot of it. It actually delayed Baldur's Gate by 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm going to say, at least for me, if we're going to say MMOs, Dark Age of Camelot. Particularly the RVR is kind of a little bit about that social experience that I was talking about, that all of like our PvE and World v. World and everything is founded on. It's all based on, you know, when you see a person, you care about them because you know sometime later they're maybe going to have to save your butt, and like that's for everyone, everywhere in our game. And so just kind of took that and brought that in. So.
I'll be a little bit more specific. It was EverQuest for me, but in particular the Rallis Zek server, which was the PvP server. And I loved that the community policed themselves. I liked that, you know, everybody, you know, knew who the assholes were, and everybody knew who the good guys were, and everybody, you know, knew everybody. And there was just, you know, such a strong community built around hating one another that, you know, it just grew on me.
Yeah, I was very up. Mine was Anarchy Online, a game that I later got to run. And kind of similar to Kurt, it inspired me. I was hooked. I played EverQuest and UO before then, and Dark Ages in a bit. But Anarchy was the first world that really connected with me, and I met a lot of great friends. And I just kind of set my mind that one day I'm going to work for them. And 5 years later, I got to run it, and I was game director. And it's kind of a cool feeling to have that world where you're, you know, where you, I was there on launch day buying a box, and it crashed consistently for 3 days, as everyone knows. But even through that, I could always see the beauty of that world. And I think everyone who plays MMOs has that first game, that game that really seals your love of the genre, and why we're still here trying to recreate that, because I hope in 10, 15 years' time, someone might say that about a game that we make.
First cut is the deepest, right? For me, it was definitely EverQuest. I remember I was in 2001 going to college back in Florida, and I was spending more time playing EverQuest than studying by just a ridiculous amount. Like 16 hours EverQuest and 0 hours studying. And that didn't do too well for my scholastic aspirations, so I ended up dropping out of college, packing all my stuff in my car, and moving cross country from Florida to San Diego and begging for a job in QA. And I've been at SOE for 10 years after that. And, so yeah, definitely EverQuest for me was literally the reason that I got a job in the games industry.
All right, our next question over here.
Well, most players, when a new MMO comes out, they compare it to World of Warcraft. As producers, do you try to compare it to World of Warcraft, or just ignore that completely?
What's World of Warcraft again?
For us, I mean, World of Warcraft isn't a very good analogy. We look at it for maybe social systems, things like that. What did these guys do well? But, I mean, you look at pretty much any game for that. I haven't been in one of those, how can we make this more like WoW conversations in years and years and years now.
No, I agree. I don't think you look at it from a point of view of how can we do something differently from them just to be different, or like them to try and get more customers. You're looking at it for a case of how can we make the game that we're making as best as we can, and how can we make it a great game. I think if you start second guessing yourself and saying, well, we want to do this to kind of distance ourselves from World of Warcraft or to be closer to World of Warcraft, you start doing your own design intuition a disservice. So you really want to be kind of honest to your game and look, and you might take some things from a game like that. It's a huge game and it's been immensely popular with millions of people.
They do a lot of things right.
Yeah, so you are going to draw from it a little, but you're not trying to use it as a yardstick by which you're going to judge your own design necessarily.
Yeah, I think in general you can kind of out-design yourself if you kind of go down that path. I think that around like, maybe 2006, 2007, you saw a lot of MMOs just trying to be different just to be different, and there wasn't a lot of good reasons or designs behind it. And so I think that you just need to be careful and set out to make the game that you think you and your players and your fans will love. And sure, you can learn things from everybody. Everyone here, we see every video, every feature they do, and we look at it and say, oh, that's cool, or that sucks, and or what are they doing there? And so you learn from everybody in the whole industry. But I think you can definitely out-design yourself on those sort of things.
Yeah, as far as actually comparing, since you said, I think the reason why they compare is because it's far and away the most polished MMO that's been released, far and away. It's not even really close. A lot of their MMOs are tend to be really rough around the edges, and especially for, 7 or 8 years old now. At that time, nothing was even close to as polished and as easy to get into, so that's why it attracted a lot of people, well, at least one reason why, and it's the reason why people look towards it as, what they want to do.
Well, I think for all the people who were involved in EverQuest, they probably get annoyed when, it's being compared against the games are being compared against World of Warcraft, because World of Warcraft really grew from EverQuest. That's kind of the granddaddy of that style of game. I think it's a genre, and whenever you're working within a genre, so MMORPGs is a genre just like RTS is a genre, just like sports games is a genre, you have to look at your competition within that genre and learn from them. Because if you're reinventing the wheel with every game system that you're working on, you're going to fail. You've seen lots of projects that do that. So yeah, you're going to look at the genre and games within there and make sure you learn what you can, but then you have to innovate as well. You have to have your own take. You have to differentiate yourself in some way.
Yeah, for us, our game's all about action and shooting stuff in the face. So besides community stuff, not as much.
It's actually kind of funny. WoW's gone through 3 iterations at 38 Studios. The first one was what did they do that was just so awesome that we want to make sure we do as well as they do, if not better. The second one was when we look at what we're making and we're trying to tell ourselves that it's getting fun, but at lunch everybody's still logging into WoW instead of the game they're making. And the third one is the question, the burning question we ask ourselves now, which is when we launch, why would people that have 6, 7, 8 years invested in a World of Warcraft account leave that game and come play ours? And that's the question that we put to ourselves pretty much every time we get together and talk about where Copernicus is.
Awesome, excellent answer. Next question over here, please.
This question was going to be primarily for Kurt, but since all of you were kind of mentioned it, I think anyone could really answer it. I'm a long-time EverQuest player. I saw sites like Alakazam grow up. Even when SWOTR came out recently, it has databases half full of all the things you can do. How do you and how do your companies look at that challenge of it's really hard to design content that players are going to be challenged with mentally because there's always that temptation to log out and look it up. How do you design how they progress, how they level, and what time it should take, knowing that they're going to be creating these kind of repositories of information?
Well, first off, I think we would all say that those repositories, we want those to grow and continue and always be there. That's the gamers, that's the communities that are going to invest massive amounts of time because you've created something they care about. I can't think of any scenario when I don't ever want those to be around. Having said that, I think what we're seeing now is the growth of the MMO space across all platforms. One of the objectives 5.5 years ago when I founded 38 Studios was that I don't want you to have to be sitting in front of the PC to interact with this intellectual property. That doesn't mean we're going to make an MMO on the iPhone, but there's no reason that any platform in the world can't be tied into the entertainment experience that we're creating, whether it be through, Todd McFarlane and R.A. Salvatore digital stories, or Todd McFarlane toys, or anything from a platform perspective. The platform that you're holding in your hands or sitting in front of I think you have to build to the platform strengths, and the community tends to drive and decide what they want, how they want that information. You're talking about Alakazam. I'm sure we've all participated in or been around. After EverQuest, every MMO came with exclamation points and question marks, and the barrier to entry has gotten easier, which I don't think is something everybody loves. But at the same time, we want you guys to continue to grow those things and build those things, because you're the lifeblood of what we do, and that's the way that you show us that we're doing things right and doing things wrong.
Yeah, that is great. Like, we're actually giving away to anybody that wants to make a fan site. We'll give them all our item names and all the drops or whatever they want, right? Like, that grows the community. There's whole people that just focus just on that kind of stuff, and it's awesome. I think as far as like designing for it, I think you need to put more of the skill back in the player's hand and make sure that, they're not just following a step 1, step 2, step 3 repeat. You need to put some sort of player skill, and I think there's a lot of games up here that are starting to lean a lot more towards, how the players handle the combat of the game or handle the different skill challenges in the game, not just, stand here, hit this 3 times and repeat.
And use variation for that. I mean, a lot of the design we're doing now, and I think there's a lot of great gameplay design moving into the kind of the MMO space in terms of the encounters and the instances and the raids and the stuff that we do at the high end of the game, or even all the way through some of the games. That's come a long way in the last 5 years, and I think what we're able to do now is we get better at what we're doing. We're maturing as an industry, and I think if you compare any of those kind of experiences that a lot of us had back in EverQuest in the day, to some of the stuff that World of Warcraft does now, the kind Guild Wars 2s are doing, in our own games, any of those MMOs, it's a lot more complex now. And even if there's a guide, you can put enough variety in the gameplay experience and enough reliance on the player's skill and ability and reactionary kind of responses, that you can still make it interesting for the player and make the experience fun, even if they have read a walkthrough of your dungeon.
And this is actually not a problem just within online games anyways, it's a problem with all games. If you think about it, there's hint and cheat guides for console games just as much as there are for PC games. And really, I think, as a game designer, what you're trying to do, whenever you're designing a game, you're trying to hit this balance where your game isn't too frustrating and it's not too easy. If it's too easy, players get bored. If it's too frustrating, then people go to the hint guide and they just get the cheats, and then that kind of breaks their immersion. You don't want that. So it's really trying to hit that happy medium, which you're trying to do with any kind of game, not just MMORPGs.
Yeah, I don't know if they really go to the hint guide for that reason so much as just to look it up. The thing is, it doesn't really matter if you look it up or if you don't. There are actually just a lot of people who don't even know about that stuff, all the wikis and all that. Really what matters is, I don't need to look it up to know whether or not it's fun, right? Like, the wiki doesn't tell me that. And if the game is fun, then it doesn't matter whether or not they know exactly what they're supposed to do. When they do that, they're having fun.
I use those kind of hint guides all the time for something like League of Legends. I want to see a cool build for that kind of game, And that's that's something that should be there. That people should be able to share those builds. They should be able to say, hey, here's the way that I played this thing. And that's, I think, what you said. It's all about variation. If there's a lot of different ways that you can tackle a problem, a lot of different ways for you to solve how you capture the space or how you complete this raid, being able to share people's different strategies for that, I think, is great.
All right, cool. Next question, please.